Hello everyone, welcome to HW News. We are going live today to discuss the new developments in Punjab politics. Punjab elections are due on 28th of February and the battle in the state, the political battle in the state is getting interesting with every passing day. The two traditional parties that have been the major player in Punjab politics, Congress and Shiromani Akali Dal. There is BJP also. Captain Amrinder Singh has launched his new party, that is Punjab Lok Congress, and this time around there is a party called Aam Aadmi Party, which is giving a tough fight to the Congress party, which is ruling party in Punjab. There are new developments happening in Punjab, and we will discuss this in today's live. So people, please, audience, whoever is watching it, please join in large numbers and also send in your questions. This is a part of our election special, and this election special live will happen every alternate day from 8:30 to 9:30. So this is a 1 hour discussion where we will talk to experts from different states about what is happening in their states, in the election bound states, and what are the developments. We are going to discuss those developments in every state. So today we are joined by eminent Professor Ronki Ram. He is from Punjab University, and especially he has specialization in Dalit politics in Punjab. We are joined by our managing editor, Mr. Sujit Nair, and we are also joined by Mr. Tarun Chauhan. He is a brand strategist. So today we are going to discuss about Punjab politics, and whatever is happening in Punjab, we are going to talk about it. So first of all, let me straight away go to Professor Ronki Ram. Sir, the lead question of today's discussion is whether this entire political election fight in Punjab is turning into Congress versus Aam Aadmi Party. Earlier, traditionally, it has always been Congress versus Shiromani Akali Dal. This time around, however, Aam Aadmi Party seems to be overshadowing the Shiromani Akali Dal.
You see, we don't have much data with us, but our surveys have been done. They are trying to make so many stories. Punjab is having 5, corner contest. BJP, Punjab Congress by Amrinder and Captain Amrinder Singh, then Shiromani Akali Dal Sanjukt. These are 3 groups together. Then we have a Akali Dal, Shiromani Akali Dal, and Bahujan Samaj Party, Congress Party, that's Indian National Congress, and Aam Aadmi Party, then Sanjukt Samaj Morcha, SSM. Now, if we can take all of them, individually, we find that Indian National Congress Punjab chapter, Shiromani Akali Dal, these are the parties which are mainstream parties in Punjab. They have their set, support structures. There are some changes, no doubt, incumbency, anti-incumbency factor, but they have their support structure nurtured during the last many years, since 1952, the first general election. So these parties, they have their, votes, which, some votes remain floating due to some regions here and there, but normally they have their, set amount of percentage. Now to come down to BJP, which is having a very small amount of Punjab votes percentage. Okay, Congress, Amrinder Singh's led Congress Lok Congress Party. We don't know what would be its position in the coming election, but definitely there is a general impression that the person who was given a full mandate and a full majority to do the things, if he was not able to do within the 4.5 year term which was with him, what is the guarantee that if we vote him, he can do something right now? So thereby, there is not much scope as far as the Aam Aadmi Party is concerned. And as far as we can talk about the Samaj Morcha, there, you need some time to discuss. Aam Aadmi Party has its support from those votes which are protest votes, angry vote, anti-incumbency votes, floating votes, those votes they thought that enough is enough. Akali, Congress, Akali, let's something new. So that chunk of votes. But once the Morcha came, Sanjut Kisan Morcha came, that floating chunk, which is rather a bigger, day by day becoming bigger chunk, that has been prevented to, call shots. Now, Sanjut Kisan Morcha and Aam Aadmi Party, they would be competing with each other on these floating votes. They won't have their set, support structure. Yes, Sanjut Kisan Morcha must have its own support structure because of it's a 13-month-old, what we can say, a consolidation in the form of a struggle to save their land that brought some sort of a, unity among them. So we can expect that there would be, now there are 9 organizations, agriculture Kisan organization, which are not with 22 Samaj Morcha's organization. But still, we find it, there's a lot of scope that they would be able to maintain their fort. They would guard their fort. So if it is so, then the fight, Aarti, is not going to be between Aam Aadmi Party and Congress Party. The main contest would be between Shromani Akali Dal, BSP and Congress, especially Shromani Akali Dal and Congress, because they would be seeking votes from their strong support structure. That's the point. So who would gain from the votes which would be divided between the SSM and Aam Aadmi Party, AAP? So who would gain? That would be there. It depends. Suppose you can take, these are 5 parties. Just take a bill of ignorance, John Rawls theory, justice theory, distributive justice, bill of ignorance. We give them 5 contestant, 20 votes each, 20%. Okay. So now let's see who would maximize over the 20%. If we can find it that Congress and Shromani Akali Dal would be having some more votes because of its support structure, traditional support structure, then we can give them 5 more, 25% votes. So 2 are having it 25, the rest 3 are having 15%. So that means ultimately the votes would get divided between the SSM and AAP, but ultimately add to the last count of the Shromani Akali Dal and Congress.
Sujit sir, I would like to ask you, as Professor is saying that the votes will be divided, especially the farmers' vote and the floating votes, the anti-incumbency votes will be divided between Aam Aadmi Party and Sanyukta Samaj Morcha, which is a outfit that has been floated by Balbir Singh Rajewal, a farmer leader who was also part of Sanyukta Kisan Morcha, the larger consortium of different farmer organization. But the opinion polls, however, say that Aam Aadmi Party is on the lead in Punjab. How do you see it?
Point forward. He's put a very interesting concept forward, and primarily what we understand from opinion polls, we understand from on ground is that somewhere down the line, Aam Aadmi Party has taken is growing in popularity, and the problem between Sidhu and Channi is basically coming of foray, and that's causing a lot of problem. You see, today also there has been, and I'm sure Tarun and Professor will agree to me that today also there has been a problem between Sidhu and Channi on the list, on the contest list. So on the contestants list. So the point is, somewhere down the line, I thought Channi being bought in as a chief ministerial candidate, the first Dalit leader who has been bought in as a chief ministerial candidate in a state where 32% of the population is scheduled caste, possibly a state which has got the largest percentage of scheduled caste. I thought it was a fantastic strategy. The strategy was placed, the thing was going good, and all of a sudden Sidhu comes in. He kind of plays the spoil sport. At one point in time, he tried to be both as in Congress was both the party, the incumbent party, and the opposition, because that was the role they were playing. And all of a sudden now it seems that the drive of Congress is going lesser, and it is going more so towards Aam Aadmi Party is what I would figure out. But then, yes, the professor has a point, what he made.
I would also like to ask Mr. Tarun sir. Tarun sir, there is this strategy that Congress has played in Punjab elections, that they made Charanjit Singh Channi the first Dalit Chief Minister of Punjab. That's a lot of first in the move itself. And this happened just 3 months before the polls. Captain Amrinder Singh was thrown out. There was a lot of anti-incumbency against him. But then Navjot Singh Sidhu, who is the Punjab Pradesh Congress Committee chief, he is also claiming to be the chief ministerial candidate for the party. I mean, he is not explicitly saying it, but in his actions, it is seen as he is also claiming to be the chief ministerial candidate of the Congress party. How do you see as a strategy the move of Congress party to make the first Dalit Sikh chief minister of Punjab? Was it perceived well?
Thank you, Aarti. Let me first start by complimenting Professor, because after a long time I heard a really nice, very articulate structure of a political discourse that's happening in a political state. So I think it was very nice, sir. Now, to build on what sir said, he spoke about stories. I like that word, stories. Yeah, Punjab, for instance, is possibly the only state today in the country where there is so much of activity. Now, let me try and put this in context. I'll take about a minute and a half. If you look at India as a country, and if you look at all the states, there are 3 states, Punjab, Rajasthan, and Tamil Nadu, where people are extremely self-driven and self-pride. They will fight amongst themselves, but they wouldn't like to get someone from outside to get involved in their fights. It is a very psychological thing. They're very pride-led people. They love their community. They love their culture. They fight amongst themselves. But the moment an outsider comes, they don't like it. Yeah. When the Rajasthan Assembly elections happened, they changed the history discourse, saying that Rana Pratap won the Haldigati fight. Now, people in Rajasthan didn't like it because they were changing with history. And most people in Rajasthan knew the history. Now, let's go back to Punjab. If you put this in context, yeah, I think Amrinder Singh going was fantastic. It was a very bold thing by the government, by the Congress, very, very bold. They got in a guy called Channi. We didn't know who Channi was. I didn't know who Channi was. Out of the blue, minister for 2 terms, he arrives and becomes a chief minister. Then the whole security fiasco happened of Modi, correct? The prime minister. Channi suddenly became a national leader out of the blue. Suddenly the conversation was between Channi and the prime minister's office. In my view, Sujit, Sidhu has become a good ally for Channi because he keeps the world busy, while Channi does his own thing. If you look at Channi's speeches, his interviews, the way he's conducting himself, I think he's very grounded, he's very articulate, and he's very, very smart. He's really a smart, seasoned politician. If you look at AAP, I'm not now talking from pure optics. I am sitting here and watching all the media drama. I'm watching pure optics of what's going on in Punjab.
The perception that also matters in election.
Absolutely. If you look at AAP, they do that whole drama of identifying a chief minister. Why do you want to identify a chief minister if you're going to elect MLAs? It's the MLA job to get a chief minister. Fair enough, let's do that. They make a guy called Maan the chief ministerial face. Their own senior leader quits the party saying Maan is a drunkard. For last 4 days, that poor Maan has spent his full day in media channels saying, I don't drink. Now, does the guy fight elections or does he fight his reputation? I think AAP has completely lost the plot. If they recover, it will be fantastic. Amrinder Singh, like Professor said, I don't know how will he come back after not delivering for 4.5 years. What is the credentials he's got? So it's going to be a very straightforward battle over there. Though people are trying various things, but it's going to be a straightforward battle.
Tarun, Aarti, with your permission, if I can ask Professor a question.
Yes.
See, Tarun, what Tarun said, I agree. I agree because today Congress is fighting Congress. I mean, the opposition is also Congress, thanks to Sidhu, and the incumbent party is also Congress, thanks to Channi. I want to ask.
I don't agree with you.
Sorry?
That is where I don't agree with you. Sidhu and Channi, I think, are on the same side playing a different game.
See,
Professor can clarify it.
To me, it is to see it as a strategy, Tarun. I don't know whether that can be seen as a strategy. I don't think it's a strategy, but fair enough. Let that be as is. But yes, I want to ask the professor a question. Professor, this entire thing, Channi coming in as a Dalit face, coming in as a chief ministerial candidate with in a state where there are 32%, 31.9% Dalit. Did it actually help? Did it excite the people there, the voters there?
31.94% population of the scheduled caste in Punjab, which is the highest in comparison to rest of the states in the Union of India. We forget, we won't go further down the line of who ultimately comprised about 32%. There are 39 castes within the scheduled caste, and they are scattered over 5-6 different religions and a number of faiths and sects. All these 39 castes, they have their own affiliations with different political parties, their own ideological stances. So if we can come down to nitty-gritty, we can take 39 main castes within the scheduled caste. 5 castes, if we can take, they constitute majority of the 32%. These are 2 groups. In each group, there are 2 castes. One group is a Valmiki group, the sweepers, which include Valmiki and Majbis. Majbis are those who, converted to Sikhism. They were the Valmiki, but they baptized, got into Sikhism. So there are 2 castes in the category of the scheduled caste census category. Then 2 other castes, which are Adharmi, which happened to be in 1931 a religion, independent religion. Britishers allowed them, but after 10 years, it reduced to a caste. And other one is Chamar caste, which include Ravidasiyas and Ramadasiyas. Channi is a Ramadasiyas. So now these 4 castes, earlier they used to, constitute 80%. But in 2007, another caste was added to scheduled caste, which was OBC earlier, the Rai Sikh. Now they were added to the scheduled caste. Putting these 5 castes together, they are at more than 80%. And other caste is a Bajigar, which are those acrobatics. You play acrobatics. The 5-6 castes, they are the major caste. They have their own differences. Ravidasiyas and Ramadasiyas, Valmikis and Majbis, they used to clash in terms of political options with each other. But now I can say that maybe the smaller identities within scheduled caste may for time being forget their small identities. They may think that ultimately the constitutional category of scheduled caste, at least that scheduled caste category has a CM. So outside upper caste groups, people know us as a scheduled caste. Within the scheduled caste groups, we know our differences. But if that sense prevails, if they try to get consolidated across their communities, if they get consolidated across their communities' differences, because they follow different sects, Valmikis, they follow Valmiki, Bhagwan Valmiki, and Ravidasiyas follow Guru Ravidas. Earlier, different political parties tried to prop up. They used to give 5 crores to Valmiki temples, 5 crores to Ravidas temple. So they tried to take balance that Valmikis would and the Majbis would come with Akali Dal and the Ravidasiyas would come with Congress. So thereby you might have noticed, even Dr. Tarun, that recently there's a beeline of all politicians to Valmiki's, sacred places and Ravidasiyas sacred places. So given this, I still doubt there would be a total, homogenized kind of political action on the part of the scheduled caste population. But suppose, if it is there, If there is a consolidation of caste, possibly there would be also counter consolidation. There will be also counter consolidation.
Correct.
So if scheduled caste in Punjab are 32%, I'm giving you a new data. Those who are agricultural communities, they are also exactly 31 to 32%. Same. If they get consolidated behind Congress due to Channi, the other 32% get away from them. They will go to Akali Dal. They may go to the mother party. They may go to Samaj Morcha. Even if they go to Samaj Morcha, that would not be to the loss of Congress or to a benefit of Morcha. This would be to the advantage of Akalis. People are now saying that Akalis are not nowhere seen. I'm telling you, meeting people, talking to many people, you would be surprised to know this, that Akalis are gaining ground. So this is one factor. Another factor, Aarti, Tarun was saying that, everyone trying to say, CM phase. Actually, we are not having a presidential form of government where we need a president phase. We are a parliamentary form of government. Where is the need to have a CM phase? Are we a presidential form of government? This is all one come. We should not encourage such things. No? Our Loktantra, our democracy would be strengthened if we choose the MLAs, let the MLA choose their. Otherwise, any CM would be so heavy on other MLAs, there would be a problem. So it's not a question of, we have seen Captain Amrinder Singh. He won the election in 2017 on his own. He became a monarch. He became a Mughal. He said that Mamla Congress is me. So this trend, the political analysts must think it. Is it a good trend for democracy in the country or not?
But then, Professor, again, the question on the ground always comes down to who is the chief ministerial face, because whenever the parties have to vote, whenever the people have to vote, they have to look at a certain face and then they have to vote it. I mean, yes, in an ideological situation, in an ideal situation, it would be better that MLAs choose their, candidate, chief ministerial candidate. But currently, what we are seeing is that there has been a trend where chief ministerial face is being announced. Congress party, on the other hand, is somewhere lagging in it because Congress has not overtly said that it will make Charanjit Singh Channi as a chief minister. However, they are now saying it slowly and steadily. But it was, Aam Aadmi Party which went ahead and first said that we will make Bhagwant Mann as a chief minister. That also came with a lot of drama behind it, that there was a missed call campaign, there was an SMS campaign. I don't know how much of the actual result came because of the SMS or missed call, but that is how it was played. So, Sujit sir, again, my question is, the chief ministerial phase projection, did it really help?
Aarti, I will take 1 minute as answer to your point. Had there been no such ministerial, prime minister, chief ministerial candidate, hype, we would not have a problem between Sidhu and Channi. We would have a problem within the Aam Aadmi Party. There is a lot of pressure. So, the idea of having a chief ministerial phase has rather created more conflict within the parties. Other than
yes, Sujit sir, how do you respond to this? What are your thoughts on this?
From a constitutional principle, yes, I completely agree to what the professor says. Constitutionally, it is the legislative party that is supposed to choose the chief minister in a state. There is absolutely no difference. You see, but there is one thing, Professor, that has been cropping up recently. The fact remains that somewhere down the line, it is ultimately a party's manifesto is limited to the person who is actually manifesting it, who is actually executing it. So, in a way that if the party says I'm going to do X, I'm going to do Y, I'm going to do Z, the people will be only convinced whether these things can be actually manifested on ground if the person who is heading it is efficient. So, efficient person, projecting an efficient person as a leader, as a person who is going to be the prime minister or the chief minister, may work to the advantage of the democracy, at least as democracy stands today. Otherwise, what is going to happen is at some point, because of political reasons, people will be made chief ministers and prime ministers who do not deserve to be, who cannot execute, who may be very popular people, Professor, but may not be able to execute the.
Exactly, but the question is this. Take, for example, Punjab. They tried to first zero in on Sushil Jakhar.
Yes.
He's the first person. But did not do. He was a Hindu. Then they tried to zero in on Randhava. Sujit Randhava. They could not do because he also belonged to a dominated community. Then they tried to bring in some a respectable woman candidate, but she refused. Then they thought it does factor. So tell me, is it the capacity of a ministerial candidate to put him before the people, or a caste or other grammar of electoral politics which they try to choose all these things?
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree. And this is precisely what, Tarun, this is precisely what I was saying. What the professor is saying is absolutely correct. You see, caste, creed, God knows what are now factors for a person to be made into a chief minister or a head of a party or a head of this thing. That is a disaster to that extent. Tarun, my question, if with your permission, Aarti, if I may ask, my question is, I'm just sliding away from the point. But you see, like Aarti said, you see, it was used to be Shiromani Akali Dal and Congress. These were the two parties. Okay, Shiromani Akali Dal in 2017 slid down to 25.2% vote, whereas Aam Aadmi Party, in fact, slid down. The number of their seats slid down to 15, whereas Aam Aadmi Party got 20 seats, which is more than what Shiromani Akali Dal did. But Shiromani Akali Dal, incidentally, got 25.7% vote share versus Aam Aadmi Party, which only got 23. So vote share of our Aam Aadmi Party was lesser. Shiromani had more vote share. But the fact remains that Aam Aadmi Party had more number of seats than Shiromani. Okay. So the point that I'm asking you, Tarun, the point that I actually want to know from you is, where did Akali go wrong? Was Bharatiya Janata Party the cause of Akali's distress?
No, I tell you what, Sujit, when you look at regional players and when they align with national players, the balance is always very difficult to manage. Unless you're a very powerful regional player like a DMK in Tamil Nadu, or Biju Patnaik in Orissa, where these guys are really powerful. They are very centered. They stay within the state. They focus on the state. So even when a national player comes, the national player is always a minority player. Whereas if you start becoming weak, like what happened to Shiromani Akali Dal in Punjab, BJP completely overshadowed them. They became the face of the alliance. That's a mistake that they did. But I want to answer the other question also that Professor raised, which is a very important point. In a democratic setup, the normal CM phase emerges. You don't have to appoint anyone. Rajasthan, Ashok Gehlot emerged. Madhya Pradesh, Kamal Nath emerged. Chhattisgarh, you had Begal emerging. If you look at BJP ruled states, their chief minister emerges. It is natural. I think it is a big mistake by parties who are trying to appoint the chief minister phase before the election. It is, I think, incorrect. I mean, in my view.
Sir, since we are talking about
Aarti,
chief ministerial phase,
I'll take one more second, Aarti. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I have to ask one more question to
Yes.
Professor before you. Professor, I want to go back to my question. You see, where did Shiromani Akali Dal go wrong? What I asked Tarun, but I want to ask you a very pointed question. You see, Shiv Sena has got lesser seats in 2019 than what it possibly got in 2014. Okay, most of the NDA alliance, if you see across the country, are actually losing out when they have aligned with Bharatiya Janata Party. I want to ask you, is there a pattern here? Is
Yes.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Because very, very, very interesting question. You see, you might be knowing it that when the Shiromani Akali Dal was sliding down to 15 seats only, but vote percentage was okay. There was a time when the history of Punjab, they had two consecutive, terms. 10
Correct.
years.
Correct.
And Sukhbir Singh Wadal, and he was, saying on the course of his voice, we are going to rule for 25 years. So that point was also, he was trying to say that we are invincible. What happened? It was during the last phase of the Shromani Akali Dal led government. You might have noticed it. There is a lot of hue and cry, Urta Punjab, drugs, then sacrilegious, bedouins, then the on the peaceful protesters who was asking for punishment to those who did this sacrilege. Then there was a shooting, people died. All this has created a lot of during elections of tension. It was at that time the Aam Aadmi Party was claiming to form a government. Because it was the Aam Aadmi Party in 2014, which Punjab sent 4 MP, whole of India. They defeated everywhere. Punjab sent 4 MPs. They were so much, adamant and proud of and arrogant that people form a government, 100 seats. But somehow, the way they tried to do the, manage the election, somewhere people did not like it, because Punjab ultimately is a state where you can't have a communal, content easily to be accepted. No doubt partition was there, that was a different story altogether. It is a circuitry culture, even after partition. If you go to from West Punjab, if somebody come from West Punjab to East Punjab, people still they feel apologies to each other, they beep, they hug each other, they say, why did we do? But we did. Because we have a common, cultures. We believe in Baba Farid, we go to Mazars, they go come to Gurdwaras. There are Muslim, Kirtaniyas, those who perform religious, devotional programs, they come to the Gurdwaras also. So all this is there. Punjab is very interesting. But we find it that somehow, once their religious sentiments are hurt, they take it that this is not a good point. So this was an extraordinary circumstances. And they wanted to tell nobody is, finally in Punjab. If you say that we will rule 25 years, we would not agree. But one thing is there. So Sukhbir Singh Bahadur, he shifted the focus of Shromani Akali Dal from a Panthic, agenda to a development agenda. No people, they still remember him. That, as far as development is concerned, apart from drugs and other things, they say that there was something. So the development, as far as development is concerned. But now, they are saying that if we come forward, we will try to look into this. These are promises. But the point was that 2017 was a very, very interesting phase. The 2022 is going to be much more interesting phase than 2017. Because at least in 2017, there was no Samaj Kisan Morcha, there was no 5-corner contest. Even then, Aam Aadmi Party could not win more than 20 seats, whereas their pitch was up to 100. Now you can imagine, at this stage, would they be able to, overcome all these, point of 20? How much they will gain out of this? This is something hard realities you must understand about Punjab. I may be wrong, utterly wrong, but my analysis is based on my little bit understanding of the Punjab situations. I'm not saying that we should win, we should not win. Prejudices are apart. But I'm going to give you the exact picture. That if in 2017, Aam Aadmi Party, having all the favorable conditions, could not win more than 20 seats. And vote by percentage remained less than Shromani Akali Dal. What else is there in 2022 which would propel it to more percentage of votes? Tell me, Sujit, you tell me.
Yeah. See,
I love it. I love the way the professor articulating.
You bet. I likewise, Professor. See, the point that I'm trying to make is, in fact, there is a question that I want to ask of a member who have just written to us, saying that don't understand this too. She says, this is Michelle Morris, who has written as, one doesn't understand this obsession about announcing the CM phase. Can't they have elections within the party later based on the percentage of vote and vote share and the candidate managed to get, so yeah, there's a lot of belief in that. But yes, Tarun.
I want to build on this. If you look at Congress, BJP, all these parties, big parties, their head of the party is not a chief minister of another state.
Exactly.
Whereas Aam Aadmi Party, the head of the party is the chief minister of another state.
Yes.
So when you vote for Aam Aadmi Party, are you voting for Arvind Kejriwal? Are you voting for who are you voting for? So it becomes very important for Arvind Kejriwal to establish that he is going to find the chief minister of Punjab, which is why he has to do all this drama. I don't think so any other party falls in this trap of announcing the chief minister phase. You don't need all this. They have a compulsion. They are stuck with a problem. Their solution is to find an alternate. They're doing it in Goa also. They try to announce the chief minister phase because people in Goa are asking them, okay, we'll vote for Arvind Kejriwal, but who's our chief minister? That's a natural question. Anyone will ask. And they don't have an answer for that.
Correct.
So
but even today, their campaign remains Ek Mauka Kejriwal ko. So which means that even their campaign slogan is for Kejriwal and not for Bhagwant Mann.
Absolutely. Then you say you vote for Kejriwal, but Mann is the chief minister. How does it work?
You see, I'm giving you one example. Tarun, Punjab is a very interesting state. Punjab is a window to India. And Khyber was a window to South Asia, this region, part of that. All those invaders came through Punjab. It was only Punjab which tried to stop them also. Be it Ahmed Shah or Nader Shah, whatever. It was. So here the question was that they always try to, come and support for the national integrity, unity and integrity. Because they are there. But if anyone in Delhi happened to be ruled by the Mughals, by the Britishers, Punjab used to say that Delhi is not our Delhi. It's a Mughal Delhi. It's a British Delhi. We will fight them. Delhi the king reta democracy. I'm saying Punjabi. So the question was this. They are proud of their own, people, strength, all these things. How would they like if somebody not from within, from outside come? So this is somewhere they start questioning. Why Ek Mauka Kejriwal ko? Why not Ek Mauka Bhagwant Mann ko?
Correct.
This dialogue, this dilemma is there.
That is exactly what I said in the beginning, sir.
Correct. But then
pride is huge.
But then it brings you back to the same question. See, this is what happens if, supposing you leave the chief ministerial phase or you don't announce your leader. I'm not saying chief ministerial phase. I'm saying
here. Question was that Bhagwant Mann was so much ambitious, like anybody else in the Congress. He was so much ambitious that why not they are declaring me as the chief ministerial candidate? This is a question, this is a weakness within the parties that they don't have control over their own, prospective MLAs and prospective chief ministers. But we are in democracy. Our job here is not only to analyze who is winning and who is losing. Our job is also to defend and to guard our democracy. We must come forward with new ideas on how democracy can be strengthened. Because if all these elections every 5 years, if they are not strengthened, system. So thereby, the people must ask, okay, as Tarun said rightly, you are also saying, if you are a good, the leadership would emerge. The leadership is not to be decided by, messages. You can't decide by messages that who is the CM of that. Let the things emerge. We have in Punjab, Gyani Kartar Singh, Radiwala Sahib. We have even senior fathers, Prakash Singh Badal ji. All these leaders, they have earned their positions over the years. And the question was that if such leadership is not there, then how would you be able to, keep your flock together? You see it right now, after even Channi is becoming CM, how many times Channi, Sidhu and others, they are called in Delhi? For what? To making some sort of a unanimity within the party. Before that, they were going to Delhi to remove Captain Amarinder Singh. After becoming a new CM, they are called to maintain some sort of a amity within the party to maintain the need to work it. Now, they are saying that we are going to contest election together. After election, we would decide who would be the CM. So now, once you made it, that he is going to harvest big chunk of the 32% votes, you have created a new discourse in the society. So now you're saying that if he would become CM face, 32% would lost. Whether it would lose or not, but the question was that you unnecessarily created a new discourse, which is a wrong discourse, which is a caste-oriented discourse. We won't want that. Yes, we want caste to be reduced. We want caste to be eliminated. We want caste to be annihilated. We know that caste is dangerous. Caste is not only dangerous for the lower caste, caste is equally dangerous for the upper caste. So we must try to do this. Democracy should help to reduce these social, evils from our society.
Absolutely.
Let us also talk about a little bit about farmers' equation in the Punjab politics, because that is the one aspect that we haven't dwelled on much in this discussion. So let us also talk about the farmers' protest, because when the farmers' protest was going on, farmers from Punjab, several regions of Punjab were sitting on the Delhi borders. Captain Amrinder Singh government here in Punjab had supported them wholeheartedly. They said that there should not be any cases on them, and all those things happened. Congress party also supported the farmers' demand. Now that the farm bills, farm laws have been withdrawn, how do you see the farmers? Will they vote as a strong community, as a consolidated community? What do you think, Sujit sir?
See, I think as far as Punjab is concerned, definitely the state government has been supportive of the farmers. The state government has always stood by the farmers, even when it was Amrinder Singh. I think the state government has stood by the farmers. So the impact of farmers' descendant or impact of farmers' worth will not be seen in Punjab like the way it is seen in Uttar Pradesh. That's for sure. So Punjab will definitely see a more united vote from the farmers, and the farmers, I think, will be open to make their calls. But the fact remains that the question is not that. I think what I wanted to ask Professor Aarti, with your permission,
Yes.
and Tarun both, is there was an incident with the Prime Minister. Okay, the incident was he was made to his cavalcade was stopped 25 minutes and so on and so forth. Okay, he went out and said that, okay, I'm lucky, I'm alive. How did it react? How did it affect the local Punjab? How did it affect Punjab vote, and how did it affect the Punjabi?
You see, but as far as the farmers are concerned, they have shown enough patience while they are 13 months on Tikri, Ghazipur and Singhu borders. They remained peaceful, despite the fact there were attempts to instigate them. So they remained peaceful. They said that we must remain peaceful. This is not only for the first time. Farmers in Punjab, they have shown exemplary courage to be peaceful. During the British time, they remained peaceful in Guru Ka Bagh Morcha and Jetto Ka Morcha. These are the histories. So as far as farmers concerned, they knew it, that there is a support from the Congress to them. They knew it very well. But now the question is, Punjab farmers, they are, highly politically, what we can say, mobilized due to this long struggle. So now they might think, one is their sentiments with the Morcha, and other is that how their vote would going to create a system in the Punjab where their problem would be resolved in the longer time. So keeping that in mind, I don't know how the thing would move, whether they would think it of, because sometimes you like your party, but you vote some other party. The trends are also there. But in the Punjab, we find it quite interestingly. Now, there's a lot of talk going on. That Sanjukta Kisan Morcha still is there, which says that we would not support any political parties. We would not take part in elections. Sanjukta Samaj Morcha says that we are contesting election, even Sanjukta Kisan Morcha, SKM, is saying that we would not support them also because it's a ideology, not to support the political party. But the question is this, there is also talk going on that if Sanjukta Samaj Morcha could not win sufficient number of votes, that failure of the Sanjukta Samaj Morcha not to get good votes should not be considered as a fatwa, should not be considered as a statement against the Morcha. It should not be considered.
Correct. Very valid point. Professor, very valid point. Tarun, I want to ask you this question. This is what, Aarti, I was trying to say. You see, my point is, somewhere down the line, the impact of Kisan Morcha, Tarun, has been seen more in Uttar Pradesh, has been seen more in Delhi. See, in Punjab, the government was supporting the farmers. So the agitation per se actually happened outside of Punjab, isn't it? So somewhere down the line, therefore, is the farmers' morcha, is it going to impact the election this time around? And absolutely like the professor said, you see, this the farmers' union, the farmers' party that is coming in, if they don't get the kind of votes, would that be a referendum against the farmer agitation?
So there are, I think your question needs to be slightly answered differently. Delhi is not an agrarian state at all. Agriculture in Delhi makes no sense. There's hardly any agriculture in Delhi. UP is full of small and marginal farmers. Punjab is completely different. Punjab is large, prosperous farmers. If you see all the tractors in every morcha, most of them come from Punjab. All the establishment, the infrastructure is all built by Punjabi farmers. It's quite obvious. You can make out by just looking at the optics. Correct? So I personally believe that the Punjab farmers have made up their mind who needs to be governing them, who's been their friends for the last 13 months. They are not talking about it. They will go quietly and do their job because they are very big farmers. I mean, they're prosperous. Most of them drive in Mercedes-Benz. And they are well-to-do farmers. So they will conduct themselves accordingly. You don't expect a Punjabi farmer to behave like a UP farmer. There's a very big difference. And I think that is where you're missing the plot. Will they support Congress? I don't know. Will there be a referendum against their thing? Tikait already said that he is not into politics. So whoever is contesting on their own. It's nothing to do with what the main movement is. The main movement will always remain where it is. So I think there are a lot of subplots within those plots. You can't just have a strong, open, big view about it. So farmer movement, yes, but the main farmer movement is not participating in elections at all. These are all the subsections of the main movement that is doing it. And why they are doing it, God knows. So we don't know.
Well, we have one very interesting question coming in from our audience. A lot of people are watching this live discussion. So Mr. Swaraj Raj is asking us, whatever we say, the fact is on the ground that Punjab voters seem very confused. Common voters are very confused about who to vote, and political voters are extremely turbid in Punjab. Whether it is going to help is the question. Now, Professor, what do you say? Is the common voter in fact confused or not?
It was exactly, I can answer Swaraj's question. In 1936, 1937, first provincial Punjab election, there was Indian National Congress, there was Muslim League, there was Independence, and there was Unionist Party. And Punjab did not get confused. They voted Sir Sikandar Yad Khan government to come into power. They knew it, that where does their interest lies. They brought that to Farmers' Party, the Unionist Party. Even though people are very much sure who would help them to kind of get them out of this, whirlpool of political confusion. Political confusion is created by the political parties, not by the people.
Absolutely. Correct.
That's
I completely agree. Sir, last 3 minutes.
Also, Aarti, to answer that question, can I just answer,
Yes.
answer Aarti's question? To answer your question, over the last 20 years, I've been watching elections. I think the Indian voter has evolved a lot. I think we're really underestimating them. They are not as ignorant or innocent as they were earlier. They really value their vote. In fact, if you ask me, the Indian voter, after you give them the voter ID card, has become very, very powerful. They think, they decide, and then they vote. So you can't buy them with rhetoric and stories and I don't think so that era is over.
Hmm.
I think they are very evolved, they're very informed. Telecom technology has completely changed the game.
Hmm.
They all really they get messages, they're completely updated. And if the literacy level of a state is high, then matters get worse for political parties.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So on that note, there is one last question that I would like to ask Sujit sir, because it's a political question. It is coming from our live viewer. It's a political question, so we will take it that way. Mr. Swaraj Raj has asked us, once again, Mr. Swaraj Raj is asking us a lot of questions, so we could only take two. This question, he is asking us that Amrinder Singh has committed harakiri in Punjab politics. Navjot Singh, on the other hand, has proved to be a proverbial Trojan, a self-made Trojan, and he has single-handedly destroyed the Congress party. Sujit sir, what are your views on this? Since it is a political question, I think we should end this discussion with this question. What do you think about this?
My view is, I think Captain Amrinder Singh has done a huge favor on Congress, is because Captain Amrinder Singh, when he left Congress, he took away the anti-incumbency completely with him and went to his own party, and he and BJP are now facing the anti-incumbency. That's number one. As far as Sidhu is concerned, I am not a big fan of Sidhu. I think Sidhu should have behaved like a president of a Congress party in Punjab. He is not behaving like a president of Congress party in Punjab. He is rather behaving like a competitor of Congress party in Punjab. So he is not behaving his post, this is my personal opinion, and I think I expected much better than Sidhu. But I think the last word should be that of Professor and Tarun. So Tarun and Professor, you guys need to make this statement.
Tarun can do it because
Tarun can start, and then Professor.
So I will say my two bit before I hand it over to Professor. Sidhu is a cricketer who's played for India. I know a lot of people have very strong opinions about him. I am not sitting here and defending Sidhu, but if you look at Sidhu's DNA, he is a person who's played in a team. He's a team player, and for the last 1 week, 10 days, I've been listening to all his interviews. What Sidhu is doing is actually hurting a lot of people visually because he's very aggressive, but he's saying a lot of right things. He's saying a lot of right things, and I just think it's helping Sidhu and Channi a lot, because Channi can't articulate so well. He's not a great articulation guy. So I think Sidhu is doing the job quite well, but I think finally, Professor, your word is final on this.
yeah, I fully agree with Tarun. Sidhu is not only a man of team spirit. He is a transparent, thoroughly honest, not a single insinuation of corruption against him. And he wanted the system to be put in the right place. He will be aggressive because he speaks from his heart. He won't bother about it. And he's concerned about that if we want to make something, we must put those wrong people, we must fix them, and we stamp out corruption from the state. That is there. People, they know that he is very loud, mouth, but at the same time, they know that he is, not hiding things, and he is very much concerned. So this is advantage. No doubt, he is opposing Congress, but that, I think, for a healthy tradition, for a healthy culture within a party, that dissent should be there.
Absolutely. I
Well,
cannot agree with Professor more.
Yes, well, I think that's the beauty of this discussion, that we have very different aspects about one particular topic on this discussion. Well, on that note, thank you so much all for joining us, and this live ends here. But audience, please do not forget to tune in at 8:30 p.m. on Thursday, because we will be back with another discussion on some other state which is obviously going for polls next month. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a nice night. Good night.
Thank you.